Thanks to the team. Great opportunity for us just to sit and soak in God's presence. And it is good to be able to share together, even though it is different with the chairs apart. And it's good to see some of you pulled them together just to get a little closer to those who are in your bubble. Go back to that term bubble. It's been a while since I've said the word bubble, but here we are. And who would have thought, Susan said this time last week that we'd be here doing this today. And so it's good to be able to welcome those who are tuning in online. Technology set up. I do want to honour and thank the team who have been working hard to get all the technical stuff together so we can do that. And so thanks to the guys, and we just say welcome to you who are joining from home. And so here we are today. Who remembers back to January? Things were different in January. And I was just reflecting on, during this week, because we weren't meant to be here this morning. We were meant to be at Delve, sharing with Delve is a weekend where we get together those who are like the potential or emerging leaders who are going to take the Salvation Army into the future. We get them all together in a room and encourage them. And there's a sense of that's an important time, delving into leadership in the Salvation Army. And so we're meant to be at that this weekend. So our plans were sort of all changed, and here we are together. And I'm sure you've experienced through the week with what's happened, just adjustments to your schedule and what is going on in your world as well. But back in January, I was part of a team who was able to go over to Australia. That was back when you could fly out of Auckland. We were able to fly to Australia, part of a group who would go over there to help bring relief and support, assist in any way we could really with the bushfires that were burning. And so we flew out of Auckland, and as we were flying out of Auckland, we flew through this cloud, and all of a sudden the cabin filled up with smoke. It was like, what's going on? I mean, we knew what was going on. This was the cloud, and the pilot came over and just said, we're flying through the cloud of smoke that's drifted from the bushfires. And we're looking at it. We can still see Auckland, So it's like, it's come over. We remember it. It was really across the whole country, this cloud of smoke. And encouraged us, or just reassured us that, the cabin, the air would get fresher. It wasn't going to be like that the whole flight. And so as we climbed, we climbed up into the blue sky, and it was nice and clear, and the cabin air freshened up, and it was a nice flight. As we descended into Sydney, we came out of the blue sky and we descended into this cloud, this smoke, this smog, fogginess, whatever you want to call it. And as we came down, we're looking out the window because you want to get a view of the Harbour Bridge and the Sydney Opera House, but we're just looking at it, you can't see anything. It's just smoke and cloud, and there's just no visibility at all. And, landing gear comes down, and we're about to land, and I've never had this happen before, and all of a sudden, we surge off again. And, we're thrust back in our chairs, and away we go. And we're hello, what's going on here? We're about to land. And then the flight attendant comes over and reassures us and says to us, you may have noticed we didn't land. The pilot will be making an announcement shortly. Okay, so we wait for a few more minutes, and then the pilot said that, he said something along these lines. He said, as we were coming into land, the tower radioed and said to pull up because there was another aircraft on the runway. And I'm like, well, how does that happen at Sydney International? I don't know. But anyway, so we sort of back around we go, and we circle around for another approach. But it was like in the midst of this cloud, the smoke, no one knew what was going on. No one could see. We'd come out of this clear blue sky all the way, sun shining, great visibility, into this cloud, and no one knew what was going on, except for we got outside help from the watchtower. But I felt this week, that's a little bit like what's happened, hasn't it? Here we were in New Zealand, and we're going along, sky was blue, sun was shining, things were looking pretty good, really, in our nation. The rest of the world, not so much, but we were looking like we're going okay, and it's like we've descended into this COVID-19 fog again. And here we are, and all of a sudden that which was clear is not so clear again. That which was certain is also, again, has been shaken a little bit. And as I've engaged with people through the week, those same feelings have come back, that anxiety. People are a little bit anxious again. There's fear. there's worry, there's concern. This time around, people are frustrated. We don't want to go through this again. There's a little bit of anger even about how this sort of just messes up our plans and shakes our world a little bit. And the key thing that we've got to do, because at this time what is really important is our focus. Our focus. What we fixing our eyes on? What are we placing at the forefront of our attention? You know, Paul de Jong, he says, your focus will determine your future. Your focus will determine your future. You want to know where you're going to be in next week or in a year's time, 6 years? Have a look at what you're focusing on today. Your focus will determine your future. And so I want us to, Mandy's already set the scene for this, calling us to fix our eyes on Jesus. And Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2, the writer calls us to do that. He says, fix our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. Other translations make it a bit expanded a little bit, like the Amplified says, looking away from all that distracts us. See, sometimes to fix our eyes on one thing, we've got to actually look away from something else. And the Passion Translation says, we look away from the natural realm and we fasten our gaze onto Jesus. And that's what I want just to do for a few moments this morning, is to look away from the natural realm. Because there's a lot going on that could discourage us, that could bring anxiety and fear and worry. And we look away from that for a moment and we fix our gaze firmly on Jesus. And so I want to do that just for a few moments this morning in this passage. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2, it continues on to say, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. I want us to focus on Jesus just for a few moments this morning, and how did Jesus navigate some of those difficult times? Did Jesus have difficult times? Did he go through some rough times? Did he have opposition in his humanity? How did he journey through the challenges that faced him as a man living on earth? We know he was truly and properly God. At the same time, he was truly and properly man. So in his humanity, what got him through the difficult times? What got him through the challenges in life? And the writer of Hebrews gives us a clue in this verse that I've just read. And it's this phrase that I want to focus on. It says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. As Jesus was positioned in the midst of the suffering of everything that was associated with the cross, as he was going through all that, his focus was on something that was set before him, something that was ahead of him in his future. And as he fixed his eyes on what was in the future, that filled him with joy in the now and enabled him and gave him strength to endure and to keep going and keep moving forward. So as he focused on what was in the future, what was set before him, it filled him with joy in the present that enabled him to endure his cross, the difficulties that were going on for him. Tony Campolo, he says it this way: hope in the future produces power in the present. Hope in the future produces power in the present. Power, courage, strength. When we have hope in the future, it gives us strength and courage, empowers us in the now. And as Jesus had his hope in something that was set before him, set ahead of him, it filled him with joy in the present. His focus on the future brought joy that empowered him in the now. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. So it is true, and we understand that joy is the key to strength. You know, Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 10 says, "For the joy of the Lord is your strength." For the joy of the Lord is your strength. So we know that joy is the key to strength. Sometimes we think we can be strong without joy. Sometimes we think we can be strong without joy. But as we live our life, as we go through whatever we're going through, as we carry whatever we carry, as we live our life daily, our strength is determined by our measure of joy. Our strength is determined by our measure of joy. You're no stronger than your joy. We're no stronger than our joy. The joy of the Lord is our strength. So it seems that this joy that Jesus carried enabled him to endure the cross. Now, I want to say, we could do this. We won't this morning, but we could go around the room and get every one of us just to share what is going on in your world right now, the difficulties, maybe, the cross that you bear. Because we all have stuff that's going on. We all have, in a sense, a cross representing the difficulties, the challenges. And so our cross on one hand. On the other hand, we all have a measure of joy. And so we've got our cross, the things that we carry in life, and then on the other hand, we've got a measure of joy. If your cross is greater than your measure of joy, then you could be in trouble. If the joy of the Lord is your strength, if your cross, if the stuff you're going through is greater than the measure of joy, then you may not have the strength to navigate through that. So the answer is obviously, more joy. More joy. Joy of the Lord is your strength. Joy is the key to strength. So that's all very well and good to say that, but we got this picture of Jesus, he's focused on something that's set before him. What is it that's in his future? What is he focused on that's bringing joy? Because I want some of that joy. What is bringing joy to Jesus? What is enabling him in this moment? So it's in the rest of this verse. The verse continues. It says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. So Jesus looked ahead to that moment. His hope was that he was going to sit down at the right hand of the Father. His focus was on eternity in the presence of his God, of his heavenly Father, sitting at his right hand. And the significance of the right hand is important because we've got to understand there is nothing in this world that will come close. The best of the best that this world has to offer will fall well short of what it's going to be like in the fullness of his presence at the right hand of the Father in eternity. And so Jesus is looking to that. Psalm 16:11 says, in your presence is fullness of joy. The significance of his right hand. At your right hand there are pleasures forevermore. Isn't that interesting? So Jesus here, he's looking ahead to that moment where he would be seated at the right hand of the Father, where there will be eternal pleasures at the right hand of the Father. Now pleasure, that word, are you allowed to say the word pleasure in church? I don't know, it doesn't. Pleasure. But actually pleasure is God's design. Did you know that? In fact, when God created the heavens and the earth, he created this place called the Garden of Eden. Did you know the word Eden means pleasure? So actually God created a garden of pleasure and he let humanity loose in it to go for their life, to enjoy it. Pleasure was God's idea. And here it is for Jesus as he's looking to that moment where he will go through the cross. He'll come to that place where he will spend the rest of eternity at the right hand of the Father, where there is fullness of joy and eternal pleasure. Not only did Jesus looking forward to that, but he is also aware that through the cross, he's making a way for you and I and whoever would believe in him to experience that one day as well. Hope in the future, that hope in the future of being in the presence of God at his right hand, filled Jesus with joy and empowered him, enabled him to endure the cross. In Luke chapter 10, Jesus sends out 72 disciples. And 72 disciples, they will go out two by two. And Jesus sends them out and he tells them sends them out with a message to share the kingdom of God, to speak the good news of the gospel of the kingdom. And he also says, don't just talk, but demonstrate this kingdom. And so he gives them authority to cast out demons, to heal the sick. As they're going, sharing the message, they're reinforcing, or the message is affirmed through the signs that are performed in the name of Jesus. And so away they go. And the verse what happens is after they've done this, 2 by 2 they go, 72 of them, they return. And here's what happens when they return. It says the 72 returned with joy and said, Lord, even the demons submit to us in your name. Well, that sounds like something to celebrate. You know, people are being set free from the powers of darkness. So that's worth celebrating, I think. You know, I'd get a little excited too if I was seeing someone set free, someone's life transformed. But look at Jesus. When Jesus hears this, what does he respond? He says, do not rejoice. Do not rejoice. Is that a bit of a wet blanket or what? You know, here we are. Imagine you with one of those disciples. I like to put myself in the story sometimes, and you've just come back, you've seen these things happen, and you're telling Jesus about it, and he says, do not rejoice about that. He does add to the phrase. He says, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. Now, I've always had a bit of an issue with Jesus on this. You know, why would he be telling them not to rejoice? Because, you know, I think, you know, like, surely it's okay to celebrate someone being set free from the powers of darkness. Surely it's okay, Jesus, to celebrate when someone gets healed, or Jesus, when someone comes to faith and responds to the gospel. Surely we can get a little bit excited about that, Jesus. I mean, you even have a party in heaven over one person coming to faith. So what do you mean here, Jesus, when you say, do not rejoice? Well, the Passion Translation, there it is on the screen, it helps us understand what's going on here. It says, your real source of joy isn't merely that these spirits submit to your authority, but that your names are written in the journals of heaven and that you belong to God's kingdom. Real source of joy. Jesus is not saying, you know, don't celebrate that stuff. He's saying, don't let that be the real source of joy. Your real source of joy comes from the fixing your eyes on that which is eternal. It's interesting, you know, the very same focus that filled Jesus with joy, he calls his disciples to focus on as well. Focus on that which is eternal. As you do that, as you think about that, as you fix your eyes on Jesus, who made a way for you and I to, you know, we're going to spend eternity in the presence, the fullness of the presence of God. As we fix our eyes on the fact that he's set us free from all sin, past, present, and future. He's given us a fresh start, a new beginning. As we fix our eyes on Jesus and that we've been born into his kingdom, allow that to bring joy in the now, because the joy that we carry will enable us, will bring strength to navigate these days. And we need strength. You know, I've said it before that we're all in the storm called COVID-19. We're all in the same storm, but we're in different boats. Someone's boat might be rocked around a little bit more than someone else's boat. Someone might need more strength at this time than another person to navigate these days. The key to our level of strength is the measure of joy that we carry. I want to finish this morning by giving us an opportunity today, whether you're here in this room or sitting at home watching online, to take a moment to fix our eyes on Jesus. And we've got Mike and Adalia are going to come and sing, and they're going to sing a song that I'm sure many of us will know. If you don't, it's a real simple tune. It's called Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. And you know, as we come aside from our week, however your week's been, whatever's happened for you, that we would take a moment just to fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. And even as he would endure the cross with his eyes fixed on eternity at the right hand of the Father, that maybe today as we listen to this song, I'm not going to invite us to sing it. I just want you to listen and allow, just where you are, allow yourself to really fix your focus on Jesus, on all that he's done for you, and on the reality that you're going to spend eternity with him one day. And allow that to give you a fresh joy this morning. Because it is about our focus. And sometimes we got to look away from some stuff. And I'm saying just take your eyes off the thing that's bringing worry or fear or anxiety or frustration in your world. Take your eyes off that and focus on all that Jesus has done for you today. And maybe you're here in this room or you're tuned in and you don't know this Jesus, well, as the guys sing the song, maybe open your heart to Him this morning, wherever you are. And as you listen to the words of the song, just invite Jesus to become a reality for you, because He'll respond to that. He wants to make Himself known in these days. So let's do that. Thanks, guys, as they sing. You just fix your eyes on Jesus for a few moments.